In this video, we're going to take a look at some of the common physical and chemical properties for families in the periodic table. Namely, we're going to do the alkali metals, alkaline earth metals, our halogens, and our noble gases. Let's first start by taking a closer look at our periodic table and locating metals, nonmetals, and metalloids on it. Generally, metals are found on the left hand and middle sort of side of our periodic table here. Now, in terms of properties of metals, metals are typically hard, shiny. They are pretty much all solid at room temperature except for mercury. Mercury is actually a liquid at room temperature. They can also, and they're really great at conducting heat and electricity, and they're also malleable and ductile. Our nonmetals are found in the blue. They're found on the right hand side of our periodic table. And depending on the element, some of them are solids, some of them are liquids, and some of them are gases. So, for example, bromine's a liquid at room temperature, iodine's a solid. Some of these up here, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine, all of our noble gases, those are all gases. So we can have different things at room temperature. In terms of the properties, they're typically brittle, they have no metallic luster, they can't flow electricity through it. So they have very much the opposite kinds of properties that metals do. Finally, the metalloids, those are found in sort of the zigzag pattern bit that separates the metals from the nonmetals. And metalloids are special in that they have intermediate properties of both metals and nonmetals. So they do have some very special properties. Now let's dive in and take a look at the four families in the periodic table and some of their properties. So we'll start with alkali metals. And alkali metals are found in group 1. So that is our lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, and francium. Hydrogen, even though it's in group 1, the only reason it's in group 1 is because it has one valence electron. It's not actually an alkali metal. It just follows the trends in terms of valence electrons there. Now, in terms of some properties, alkali metals are group 1. They have one valence electron. They are very highly reactive. They're shiny, silvery, soft, good conductors of heat and electricity. They have low melting points, low densities. They are malleable and ductile. They react really easily with halogens. And as we're going to see in one of our demonstrations, they are going to be pretty reactive with water as well. Now, moving on to our next category, or next family, is the alkaline earth metals. Now, the alkaline earth metals are found in group 2. So these are all metals that have two valence electrons. They're also highly reactive, but they're not as reactive as the alkali metals. They also have a lot of similar properties of metals, so they're shiny, silvery, and soft. They do have higher melting points. They still have low density. They're still ductile and malleable, and they react pretty easily with halogens or water, not quite as violently, though, as our group 1 alkali metals. Moving on to halogens. So, halogens are the elements in group 7 or group 17. So, that's fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, and so on. Now, in terms of halogens, halogens are non-metals since they're found on the right hand side of our periodic table. They are pretty highly reactive, though. They will combine with metals to form salts. And so we'll see that in grade 10 science and further on. They also combine with hydrogen to form acids, and they can be corrosive and toxic. And at room temperature, fluorine and chlorine are gases, bromine's a liquid, iodine's a solid, and the rest down are solid as well. Finally, our last family, the noble gases. Noble gases are in group 8 or group 18. So these are all of our elements that have a full valence shell. So helium has 2 electrons in its valence shell, and the rest of them have 8. They are inert. So inert means they do not react, or at least do not react readily with other elements. And they're also stable. And that's because of their full valence shell. They're colorless, they're odorless gases at room temperature. And if a electric current is passed through each gas, it'll glow really brightly. So thinking about neon lights are made have neon filled inside them. Or many of our light bulbs have argon, I believe, inside them. So these are all really great gases to use inside light bulbs and lighting because they are not reactive. So those are our 4 families. We've got alkali metals, alkaline earth metals, halogens, and noble gases. That's it for this video. Let's move on to our next task.